I wanted the sound effect. Parents thinking they can fix us when they're the ones that broke us is not always the solution.
Yeah, big fish, small pond, and fought tooth and nail to get like the prime shifts. Did one more stage, and then at that point, like halfway, I didn't even do the first stage. I knew that I was gonna like take the job. And I was,
Likes to hand pick. It seems like.
Yeah, and I was always like, I was surprised when Jamie actually like reached out like and texted me. I was like, I'm very surprised that this guy texted me right now.
It's a lot for a lot of people. You know, a meal like that is a once a year, once a decade, once a lifetime.
Yeah, and being like, okay, like there's levels to this this thing, and you're not like out in South Texas or in like Lafayette anymore.
They got one star and I was like, that's fucking bullshit. And then they got a second star. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm okay now. This like this blender effect that you were going through post pandemic, and by no means is this like at all towards. That's back to what we were talking about, teamwork. When you look over to your left, and you look over to your right, and somebody's pushing harder, and you go, I gotta push harder. Like, what the fuck is that? I'll leave that in. I'm not cutting that out.
Don't cut it out. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't know if it's bad luck to toast with an empty glass, but usually the blind's already in the bag, and already in the glass. But this,
The French might have something to say about that, but
that's probably true. But maybe the British too, with like empty spirit glasses or something. But I wanted the sound effect. Okay, there we go. This is a congratulatory bubbles for passing your advance.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah.
Kind.
My plan, I asked you a while back, like what your schedule was, because I
Yeah.
wanted to like bring you something. And then I was like, I need to have him on the podcast. And then when you were down to do it, I was like, well, I'll just pour bubbles for him when he gets here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now we could share a bottle. That's one of my favorite things to do.
The bubbles never get old.
That's true. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, you can feel this room already gets like a little hot.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm worried, like pouring bigger reds. I'm like, I don't know that I want to do this. Do I want to drink this right now? So hopefully nobody's caught on to the fact that like I'm not ever pouring current vintage Napa Cab for anybody. So, yeah. Anyways, it's cool. Tommy, welcome to the podcast. Super excited to have you. Congrats. We'll do a real cheers now so we don't get in trouble with whatever gods there are out there.
Thank you.
And congrats on passing your advance.
Yeah, thank you.
Super cool. Thanks for repping San Francisco, and thanks for your hard work in our industry. You know the deal. Do a little intro.
Yeah.
Tell us your story. Where you from? You know, how'd you get into the industry? And
Absolutely.
bring us up to speed.
Let's see. So my name's Tommy. I'm Sommelier over at Lazy Bear currently. Part of a really wonderful team. I grew up in a little town of South Texas called Farr. Area people refer to as the Rio Grande Valley.
Okay.
And I grew up there for the most part for a lot of my formative years. My dad was from Texas. My mom was from California. Long story short, when I was in middle school, my dad was about to retire, and he told my mom, I'll move to California with you if you want to move back to California. So lo and behold, he kept his promise, and it was a tough time living around middle school and high school to move from a different state to
Restart your life.
Restart my life. And not to say that it was the easiest transition, but that's how I ended up, I think, in California, a little town called Soledad in the Central Coast.
Yeah, Soledad.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows the sign. It's happening in Soledad. My joke was like, it's never happening in Soledad.
It's never happening in Soledad.
But ended up there, went to high school, graduated, didn't really have any ties to the area. And so decided to leave. And I had a friend down in San Luis Obispo at the time. She was going to Cal Poly, and she was like, well, if you don't want to stay in Soledad and go to Hartnell and Salinas, like, you can move down here with me. So ended up convincing my parents to let me move down there. I had originally wanted to join the military straight out of high school, and my mom was like, absolutely not.
The haircut's appropriate for it
today.
today.
I know. I think it's, it fits me at this point. And she told me, she's like, I'll make you a deal. If you don't join the military, I'll pay for your school. And,
Sick.
I kind of weighed those options and asked friends. They all kind of had different, ideas, but most of them had said, "You just go to school." So, ended up down there for junior college. Stayed a year or two. Really enjoyed it. I still actually love that area. San Luis Obispo is probably one of my favorite parts of California. And then ended up moving out of there. Moved out back to Texas with my brother because I was being a sort of a knucklehead, and my dad wanted me to move back to Texas because he thought for whatever reason that would fix me. I know. And so my first
parents thinking they can fix us when they're the ones that broke us is not always the solution.
Yeah, no. You still can't tell them that. But I ended up moving to Texas and was working, and my buddy's older brother at the time was managing a Texas Roadhouse, and that was technically my first floor restaurant job. I'd been a pizza delivery driver in high school, but I was never inside the restaurant at that time. And so they had hired me as a server, and I just, at that time, I was still around 21, still super shy, like introverted. And it wasn't like the right fit. And so they pulled me from being a captain because I couldn't hold those trays like that were just like full of steaks and and so I ended up being a busser, and that probably worked out for like 2 to 3 months. And I was just like, I'm never doing this again.
This sucks.
Blah 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 blah. Granted, like it was fun hanging out with a lot of those people because you've probably seen the movie Waiting.
Oh,
It was very much like that, and at the end of the night,
a pirate ship.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday night, almost. I mean, every night it was like that.
Yeah.
But worked at Texas Roadhouse, did it for 3 months, got out of there and swore I would never work in restaurants again. And then moved back to California and moved up with some friends in Sacramento, went to Sac State, got my degree in political science and government. And I started coaching up there as well as like substitute teaching. And I loved the coaching aspect of it. That was always because I played sports a lot growing up as a kid. And I just couldn't do the substitute teaching thing. I was like, that's a very special kind of patience. And my mom had been in education and stuff like that. My mom's a saint and angel, and she has the patience, that I do not have. And got out of it. I had a friend call me one day and text me that I went to Sac State with, and he moved down to Walnut Creek. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Do you like it up there?" I'm like, "Not really. I'm not really doing much." And he's like, "You should move to Walnut Creek. I have a friend that needs like a roommate." And I was like, "Yeah, like I'll meet her, whatever. Like, and I'll check it out." And her and I got along really well, and moved down like 2 months later. And this was probably like 2012, 2013, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, I know I don't want to teach, and so I went back into like started applying at restaurants because I needed to make a living and an income. And I applied to be a delivery driver at a pizza place in Lafayette. And when I applied, the guy was like, his name was Brad. He was the manager, GM at the time. And it's Pachi's Pizza, but there's still like ones here in Hayes and stuff like that. But I applied, he interviewed me, and he, at the end of it, told me, he's like, "Have you ever worked front of house?" And I was like, "No, I really don't have any inclination to it. Like, I'm just super shy, and I'd rather just, keep to myself." He's like, "Well, I think you'd be really great at a front of house position." And I was like, I don't know, like, that's, like, I think I'm good. And he's like, no, like, I think you'd crush it at front of house. And so he's like, I don't want to hire you as a driver. And so he pretty much kind of, like, forced me.
Strong arm.
Yeah, not to be a delivery driver. He's like, I want you to work, the counter and, take to-go orders and stuff like that. And, if you want to move into a different position at some point, sure. And so, I did it. I took to-go orders for pizza at Pachi's for, like, probably 6 months to a year. And then... that's when I started meeting people in the industry and stuff like that, and just really got along with them. And I was like, oh, these are like really great people that I work with and that I'm surrounded by, because it was like a small little town. Every other restaurant knew each other and knew, all the people that worked at said restaurants. And like, long story short, I like needed to become a server because I had like a really crummy roommate situation. And I was like, well, I just need to make more money. So
the servers making more money.
Yeah. And at that time, man, I was like, the checks would scare the shit out of me because I would see them drop like $200 checks and $300 checks. I'm like, man, that's like a ton of money.
Yeah.
And so I became a server at that restaurant, and just naturally kind of like fell in love with it. It was really great taking care of people. Growing up in Texas with a very close like knit like community and stuff like that. Like all those kids that I had grown up with, we lived with like across the street from each other. So we'd all go to each other's houses all the time and have dinner and have sleepovers and stuff like that. So it was just like really nice, like genuine, like that feeling of like, oh, I want to take care of people. Like they're over, they can
someone's in my home,
stay the night, like they get comfortable and stuff like that. And so I really enjoyed that feeling. And at one point, I had always been interested in bartending. I always thought it was like a really cool thing. And I had met other bartenders within the area that worked at a restaurant called Metro out in Lafayette. And I think that's the place that eventually catapulted me to, I think, making it to San Francisco. But ended up going over there. A couple of friends were like, we'll teach you how to bartend. And then it was a fairly nice bar with like a really solid wine list. And I still go back every once in a while for the tuna poke because the tuna poke is fantastic.
I'm going to write it down.
Yeah. Tuna poke. But the owner, Jack Moore, and there was a manager at the time there named Keith Hansen. Keith Hansen has been my mentor for several years now. He's pretty much what got me into the I think beverage industry. And
is this Keith that used to work at Swirl?
Keith.
What's that, Keith?
No.
No, okay. We're thinking
maybe. He works for Frederick and Wildman now. He's a rep.
No, the last one, he went to work for... I don't know where
he worked at like a Monterey broker.
Yeah, Monterey.
Yeah, Keith Hansen.
Maybe that's him. I don't know. I'll look it up.
Big guy, like
big guy, bald. Yeah, used to be a power lifter, whatever.
Probably that would check out. He was out in the East Bay for a long time. He's still,
has a kid.
Yep. A daughter.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Keith, was managing me at the time, and saw that I was like bartending, and then one day he asked me like the age-old question of like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Yeah, like what are you doing?"
Just existing.
And I'm just like, I don't know what you mean. He's like, "What are you doing with your life?" I'm like, "Well, I'm like bartending right now." He's like, "Yeah, but you don't want to do that forever, do you?" And I was like, "Well, like it's fun right now." He's like, "Yeah, but you don't want to do that forever." And I was like, at the time, I was like just having a great time with it. It was like Lafayette, it's a small little town. And Metro was like the bar that everybody like went to at the end of the night. So you just always felt like the smallest little rock star in the world. Mm-hmm. And we would
big fish, small pond.
Yeah, big fish, small pond. Yeah. And on Fridays or Saturdays, I forget what day it was, Keith would typically have blind tastings for us where he was trying to teach like the team about wine and stuff like that. And he would always, at one point he was just like, "You describe wine really well. It's like, do your parents drink wine?" I'm like, "No, neither of my parents drink. Like maybe a beer my mom would have like once in a while." Mm-hmm. He's like, "Do your grandparents drink?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Man, I grew up in South Texas. Like nobody drinks wine."
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, you describe wine really well." He's like, "Well, you should. Hey, I want you to take your intro somm." And he almost kind of strong-armed me into it again. He's like, "I want you to take your intro somm." I was like, "I don't know enough about wine to like do that." He's like, "Don't worry, I'll show you." And I was like, "Okay, fine." So I signed up, took it, and like he's like, "You've worked at this restaurant long enough, like, and I can show you enough to like pass it." So you get it 60% on your intro, and so yeah. Took the 2-day course up in Napa with another colleague of mine, passed it. And then when I went back, he's like, "I want you to take your certified within 6 months to a year." And I was like, "Well," I was like, "I still new and green and everything. I don't know how to really describe wine." He's like, "No, like you describe wine really well. Just like, I'll show you how to do it." And forced me to take my certified at one point. And I wanted, kind of grow and so I took my certified and again passed it, and he's like, "All right, well, like now you can go work wherever you want." And I was like, "Well, shit, I never really thought about it like that." Yeah. And like that's very cool. Also that he like took a liking to me and thought like, this dude, whoever he is, has potential. And so yeah, forever thankful for him for helping me out and kind of guiding me in that sense. And he's guided me all the way up to my advanced exam this past month. But yeah, ended up sticking out at Metro for like a little bit longer, and then he ended up leaving, taking a job at the Intercon at Luce, which I think was like, I don't think Luce's there anymore now. And
no, I think Luce's still
is it? Yeah, I think I went the other day and they said they were closing it. Was my understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Just to say hi.
They've been churning people. I mean, I when I worked at Chambers for 3 years, there was like 5 or 6 different buyers. So yeah. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
And so yeah, I took the job at Luce, and I was like bottom man on the fucking totem pole, like. All the guys that had been there like were veteran industry boys, and like you couldn't tell them anything otherwise. And so I was there, would food run, probably work like 4 days a week, which was like not to my liking and stuff like that. So Keith was like, "I'll try and get you better shifts, but just so you know, it's like union. Like, these guys pick their schedules and stuff like that." Yeah. I was like, "Shit!" I was like, "Dude, I need to make more money." Like, he's like, "Well, the idea for you to like take this job was to like not stay here forever." He's like, "You don't want to be at the Intercon forever." And at some point, a former like kind of acquaintance colleague at the time, Jamie Pinedo, had reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to come work at Spruce?" And I was like, I'd always heard great things about Spruce, and I was like, wow, like it's like so nice of him to think of me in that sense that I could like work at a place like that. And so took an interview, got interviewed as a bartender with the potential to be a sommelier, and yeah, ended up leaving like within like 6 months of Luce, and took a job at Spruce and worked with the Bacchus group for 4 years. I like to joke around that I took the whole tour of duty for that restaurant. They were very, very good to me, though. I have mad respect for them, and they treated me very well for the most part. But yeah, I worked at Spruce, bartended there for a year, like fought tooth and nail to get like the prime shifts. And then it was just a kind of thing where I was just like, well, bartending is like fun, but it's not a really like sustainable long-term like thing. Like it is, but it's not like what I wanted. I was like, okay, I got my certified, and there was like always an idea. I was like, the goal that I had set for myself when I started doing the wine thing, I was like, well, I want to pass my advanced. And so I was at Spruce, bartended. They were opening a new restaurant called Selby's down the peninsula in Atherton, which I think just got its grand award.
I'm interviewing Caleb tomorrow.
Are you? Okay, great. Yeah, I was just hanging out with Caleb last night.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. You were there with the Morgan Harris hang and all that?
I did not go to that. He went to that after. But
okay.
We met up at Decant, shared a bottle of wine, and then he had to go and I went home. But yeah, no, we were hanging out yesterday and catching him because he was also one of the ones that guided me along the way. But yeah, went down to Selby's. I was part of the opening team there. I offered to be the opening lead bartender because I knew they were having a hard time finding somebody, with the eventual expectation that I would transfer into a sommelier role. And then that happened right before the pandemic. I got promoted to a junior somm role there, literally the week before. I remember signing the contract, and then Jamie being like, this is a good timing for you.
We're closing for a while.
I don't know what's going to go on in the next couple of weeks, but I think everybody kind of had an idea. And they, everything closed and shut down. A lot of people, a lot of my friends and colleagues had been let go, and I was one of the few people that was still kind of hourly, just become salary, that they kept on. And they kept me busy. I pretty much worked the entire way through the pandemic. Didn't get to do any of the fun employment stuff, which I regret, but
there was some fun times.
It was still fun, I ended up going back to Spruce for some time, helping out with the bar, and because they turned it into a wine shop, liquor shop, and we were selling off pretty much their entire inventory.
Oh man!
And so that was a very interesting time, but it wasn't not fun. But yeah, stuck it out through there. Was back at Selby's at one point, and we were just doing to-go orders and stuff like that. And I knew the pub was about to reopen because they had just opened the patio, and we had just gotten the green light.
Village Pub, right?
The Village Pub, yeah, to reopen. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna be working, I'd rather just work in the restaurant. I don't want to be sitting here twiddling my thumbs, giving to-go orders. There was 10 a night sometimes, and it's just you're just sitting there idly passing time. Yeah, and we're kind of I would use that time to study occasionally, and just read up on stuff. Yeah. And so I asked to be well, can I go work at the pub? And they were like, yeah, sure, why not? We still need help over there. And so I transferred to the pub, was there for about a year. That's where I think it was I really considered my first somm job. Mm-hmm. And then the commute just got too long. It was just way too much, and working 12 or 13 hours a day, and then commuting back. So it was an hour back and forth. And so it was just going to the pub and then going home, sleeping, and waking up and doing it all over again. So it just the work-life balance wasn't there. And so I asked to come back to Spruce, and then they were like, well, we have to replace you down at the pub. And I kind of threw down the gauntlet of well, if you can't move me, then you don't have me at all, kind of thing. Yeah. And so they moved me back to Spruce. I literally at that time too, I had just moved down the street from Spruce, so I could walk.
That's
5
great.
minutes. Yeah, exactly. So I was there's no point.
Jordan also lives right in that same area. He's a couple blocks away or something.
And so it's just well, I could just walk to work, and I can roll out of bed at 10:30 and be there easily by 10:45.
Yeah.
And so they moved me back. I offered to help with the bar and be a bartender again because they had lost their previous bar team, who I'm still very close with to this day. We've all gone on to do different things. Some people have left the industry, but we still talk just about every day. They were a very much part of my backbone as and support when I was there. And then it just got to a point, Spruce was doing a ton of covers, and I just, again, this wasn't sustainable, and I could see it at that point. And I had asked to be promoted to a somm role because I was I just don't want to be behind the bar anymore. And they were well, it's kind of the same situation. There's no spot for you because we're full in terms of the somms, and the bar needs the help. And it got to a point where one night, and I think Caleb, you can talk to Caleb about this tomorrow. I looked at him and I was dude, I'm done. And I was I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I want to work and wine. And they had try to talk you down the ledge of can you just stake it out? And I'm no, I'm done. This is it. This has been 4 years. I worked at pretty much every property, even the Village Bakery some days to help out because they would get busy over there. And I honestly quit without thinking about what my next move was. I was I'm going to quit, and I'll figure it out. I always do. This has never been a thing, so I quit. And then it took a couple weeks off. And then I started reaching out to different restaurants. I had probably actually reached out to Lazy Bear at that point. Reached out to Kren, and it's pretty much between Kren and Lazy Bear. Kren got back to me really quickly. Lazy Bear was kind of which is funny because I work at Lazy Bear now. Yeah. Jacob, still love you, but I think Jacob got back to me. Yeah. And so I took the job at Kren. I had asked for a month off to just take a little sabbatical and break, and the GM at the time told me, she's like, well, if you take a month off, I have to hire you as a service assistant, not a sommelier. And I was like, well, fuck. I was like, what's the best? She was like 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, I can take 2 weeks. So I went to 2 weeks, went to Chicago for a couple weeks because I had always maybe like debated moving out there. Just wanted to see what it was like. Had a great time. It was around like St. Patrick's Day. And so it was nice to get, just some rest and relaxation, but also have a good time and not worry about like what I was, getting into. But I also knew I was going to be starting at Cran. So
and vet that city to see if you wanted to live there.
Yeah, which is still of interest to me. Yeah. It was when I was there for St. Patrick's Day, I decided to go out later in the day. I was like, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock would be appropriate. And by that time I got out, and everybody was already hammered. Just talking to a cop on the sidewalk, and I'm like, yeah, you guys start early. He's like, yeah, we take our St. Patty's Day very seriously. Like, as you can see, and there's people like stumbling all over each other. But yeah, I came back after that, those 2 weeks off, started at Cren, and was there for about 2.5 years. It was something that I wanted to challenge myself to. I had almost debated working at Atelier Cren, I think, prior to taking a job at Spruce. And then when I think maybe Keith or my owner Jack Moore at Metro was like, just so you know, she's French. And I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, they just have a very particular way about they do things. I don't know, that's good for you.
Sure.
But, ended up there and wanted to challenge myself to, learn the nuances of service. And then, Cren's very choreographed in terms of how they do things and well thought out. And I was also being hired as a somm. And so that was like something that I really, really wanted. And then, was there, had worked with a gentleman by the name of Vincent, or Vinny.
Bilal.
And who now works at Kiln.
Yep.
And Taylor Edison. I don't know if you're familiar with Taylor Edison. He's one of the somms at Cren now.
Oh, yeah, we're DMing. Yeah. I think I'm trying to line that up. Yeah.
So, I worked with Taylor. Loved my initial, year there. And then, they changed concepts. And for me, it was something for me, it's always been like, can I get behind the product that you are pushing?
Was this the scale back from meat, or was this a scale back from dairy?
This is a scale back from dairy.
Okay,
so the first year I was there was dairy, really tight-knit team, veteran. Everybody had been there a while, worked their way up, knew every position. And you could feel it. There was a sense of professionalism and, just team camaraderie that I really enjoyed. And so I was like, man, this is, awesome. The game seems so great. Everybody's, so knowledgeable. They make you want to be better and stuff like that. And then the year passed, or the year turned, and they had rethought the concept. And it was just something that I was for me, at the end of the night, I always ask guests genuinely, how was your experience this evening? And I found a lot of, it just wasn't measuring up to, what I was anticipated or what I had been used to, the previous year. And I was like, oh, well, shit, are we missing the mark? And I don't fucking know. And I had taken my advanced theory at that point and did terribly on it. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I have to be in a position to learn from people that are better than me and smarter than me, and they have done this and stuff like that. And so I started thinking, I was like, I should probably maybe make my exit. And it was a hard exit because I really loved the team at the time. And I had worked myself, Vince had left, and then I had worked myself into the lead somm role. And my buddy Gabe was working at the time, who I'm really, really close with. And it was just one of those things where I can't stay here for forever, and I'm not gonna grow if I just stay here. And Jacob had reached out to me, and as well as my buddy Paul Barcelo, who works at the Felix now, and said, hey, have you ever thought about working at Lazy Bear? And I was like, yes and no. Lazy Bear had always had this grand aura about them, and I was like, I don't know how I fit in with that. I never really liked the spotlight on me, that kind of thing. And I staged, and I really loved the team. I was like, man, this is really cool. The story's fun. People really enjoyed the food, the experience, and they had already gotten away from the communal, classic communal dining that they had used to do, and we were doing more communal, but it was still individualized. There was a flower or a vase or something, splitting people into groups. And really liked it. I was like, man, I think this actually might be a good fit. And I think the management and Cren knew that I was probably going to leave at that point, and I had already said I'm probably going to take the job. And did one more stage, and then at that point, I think even through the first stage, I knew that I was going to take the job, and I was it just felt such a honor to be also offered a job at Lazy Bear. So finished my second stage. They pulled me downstairs, we were just so we wanted to offer you the job. And I was like, okay, fine, and ended up, and that's how I became a sommelier at Lazy Bear, and it's there's a lot of in between in there somewhere that I probably left out, but
that as is all of our stories. You know what I mean? It's always tough. I feel bad trying to ask somebody summarize your life for me.
That's the abridged version.
Sure, that's great.
That's great. There's a lot of in between there, but it was just, it was an industry that I had found myself in, that I was like, man, and I know who I am. Like, I know I'm naturally, inherently a quiet, like, shy person.
Sure.
But it had, being a bartender, like, at Spruce and at, like, Metro, had forced me to, like, out of my shell. And, like, I realized, like, this is actually a good thing. Like, I enjoy interacting with people. Like, I can, like, get to meet people from everywhere. That's actually really, really cool. And, if I just stayed a pizza delivery driver, like, my entire, like, then I would never have been in this position. And I've learned so much and had so many experiences and make memories and stuff like that. And so it was just like, at that point, I was like, yeah, I need to, like, I need something I need to take seriously. And I knew Lazy Bear had always had, like, just, again, a very successful program. And I knew that they could help me get to where I wanted to go. And sure enough, like, within a year, I passed my advance. And
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
I kept seeing you and Jacob posting, and it seemed like you guys were taking it super seriously, which is amazing. I mean,
well, that was the thing too. Like, I didn't want to, like, leave Cran and then, like, leave and not pass it.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, absolutely. I made this move for a reason. Like, I have to follow through.
Right.
And that's always, like,
commit to it.
Exactly. I have to follow through. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So, but yeah, it's been amazing working with so many, like, different restaurant groups and individuals, and very blessed to have some of the mentors that I've had, like, along with, like, again, Keith. I think I'm forever indebted to him, Jamie Pinedo, Jacob, and all those guys. Like, from top to bottom, they've always been, like, looked out for me, and so it's been really great.
Yeah. You said earlier, you were saying my old something about Jamie. How did you know Jamie before that? Was that just kind of through the court, or?
No, we have a very, like, weird, like, kind of crossover story. He's was also at Metro at one point. And this is when I was working at the pizza place.
That's funny.
And so we would all go to Metro. I was one of them, and would be patrons there, and Jamie would be behind the bar, and he was our bartender. And so that's how I kind of, like, got to know him. We've had a very unique, I think, relationship very, very early on.
Sure.
And it was just, it was like, there was, like, a lot of overlap. We had, like, a lot of mutual friends, and we would see each other out. We wouldn't always, like, converse with each other. I think we were kind of similar. Like, you just want to be, like, left alone sometimes after service, and sit at the opposite end of the bar. And then, that's how I knew him. I knew his then girlfriend at the time, and she was, like, a friend of a friend of mine. And it just, eventually blossomed into, like, a kind of nicer relationship, and we ended up getting along really well, and he's the one that brought me to Spruce, and
it's awesome. I hear a lot of that. It sounds like Jamie kind of likes to handpick. It seems like.
And I was always, like, I was surprised when Jamie actually, like, reached out, like, and texted me, and I was like, I'm very surprised that this guy texts me right now, but again, like, it's a very small industry out in the East Bay. Like, I hung out with all the Pizza Antica kids from, like, Lafayette,
right,
and then when Jamie left Metro, I left the pizza place and then went to Metro, and
I see.
Essentially kind of, like, not filled his role, but like took over, like, bartending shifts that maybe he had worked before and stuff like that, and kind of, like, hit the kind of same trajectory. But I was also, like, he was very much, like, very much an inspiration behind that. And he ended up leaving to Spruce, and I was at Metro, and I got to know all the Pizza Antica kids, and Pizza Antica and Spruce are sister restaurants, and I got to know Drew Perry and Sam and all those guys. And Drew one day was like, "You should go work at Spruce. Like, you should reach out to Jamie." I was like, "I don't know if Jamie wants me to go work at Spruce." And he's like, "No, you'd be a great fit." And it just kind of naturally happened.
Yeah. I think there's something beautiful about the Bacchus group in general, like, from an outsider, I guess, observing. It seems like it attracts a lot of, like, similarly minded people. It's a group of people that are dedicated to the hospitality industry. I mean, first and foremost, it's not very much like, oh, wine, I'm pouring the dopest shit. I mean, you guys end up pouring some of the dopest shit, but
we do,
yeah. But it's not all about just, like, flashy. No. You know what I mean? Which I really appreciate as somebody that worked at Boulevard. That's something that always resonated with me about Spruce. It was like, it's like an affordable luxury in a way. Right. I worked at Quinn's for a while, and after a while I was like, I mean, my dad passed already, but I thought, like, my parents could never afford to eat in a place like this. I was there for almost 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just thought, like, my parents could never afford to eat in a place like this. And like, I grew up, working in, like, a fine dine in Galveston, Texas. Like, and that was like, a $200 meal was like, fuck, you're really going out,
And that's how similarly, I know my dad would, like, take us to, like, Shoney's and stuff like that. Like, I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley, and $200, I was like, that's a lot of money. I remember, like, 20 years later working in a restaurant and being like, somebody dropping a $200 pizza check and being like, I think this person's gonna be upset about this check. And like, just drop the check. And I'm like, I don't know, like, And then I realized I was like, this isn't really.
Do you think they know that they paid this? Do you think they know that they ordered this?
Yeah, exactly.
I know that feeling.
And I was just like, at that time I just had no like bigger concept of like, now I work at other restaurants. Checks
oh yeah,
I'm like, oh okay, well,
600 a person. You're like, yeah,
it's fine.
And
yeah. But yeah, no, very much came from like very like not to say like we were very much I think like maybe middle class, like slightly upper.
Yeah.
But my parents worked really really hard. My dad was in the government. He worked for the Border Patrol for 35 years and stuff like that. Very just hard nosed grinder. Like you get what you put into it kind of thing. And so I always played sports growing up too. And so I think there's like a little competitive edge to me that like I think naturally was like like in the wine world like there's. It's a lot of competition and stuff like that. And
when also in the world of fine dining, I mean, there's also the concept of, and it's not even necessarily like outworking your neighbor, but it's kind of like, let's push each other. Right?
To be better, exactly. Yeah, like I'm only gonna if I get better, you're gonna get better,
right?
And that's the only way this is gonna work.
Yeah.
If we're doing this, then we might as well be trying to be the best at it.
Yeah.
And I played baseball growing up a lot, and like wrestling in high school and stuff like that. And it just really instilled this really like never give up, like hard nosed, like keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like being in Texas and stuff like that, and see my parents like pay $200 now, and now seeing the checks, and I'm just like, that's where I'm like I expect like perfection a lot of the times of like the team and stuff like that. I know like it's sometimes hard to get behind. But I always just want the best experience for the guests, like, and that comes from like a genuine place of like authenticity and hospitality.
Yeah,
I want them to come back,
and
I don't want them to be like, man, that place sucked.
Like,
why did we spend $1,000 to go there? Because then it's like that sucks that they spent their hard-earned money and like did all this, and like we delivered something underwhelming or below our standard.
Yeah, it's a lot for a lot of people. A meal like that is a once a year, once a decade, once a lifetime. I mean, like a meal like that is not something to take lightly. And, I have a lot of respect for places that are able to deliver things like that, But again, just to touch back on the Bacchus Group as a whole, I've always loved that kind of like approachability of the properties they put together. Like La Canessa, they've got like a burger joint next door and a donut place next to that. It's all part of the same team effectively, but it was just really cool when they did that, and Caleb Kiger went over to open that with them. And I was just like, wait, Bacchus Group is opening a donut shop? Like, what are you talking about? And they were like, yeah, in a burger spot. And I was like, like the Spruce burger? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. It's not about climbing the ranks to become more expensive. It was more about kind of like, and I guess it was post-pandemic. I was going to say it was before the pandemic, but it was post-pandemic. But it was still like kind of like stepping towards the more affordable aspect of things.
Offering something at every level of
So cool.
And they've always I think done a great job, and hospitality for them is a very much like the pinnacle of what they're trying to put forward and accomplish. And that's I was hospitable before that, but even then like they really drove it home in terms of like you take care of people and see them again kind of a thing. And so I always love that about them, and I think I took that with me because. For every job, whether it's like the best job that you've had at the time, or you learn something, you take something from it, or you should be at least,
right.
And that's I think
what you do or don't want.
Yeah,
that's what I've always thought of. Yeah.
I take this from the next, and maybe I don't want this next time. I really like this about it, and so that was like fun, like going from like a 1 to a 3 to a 2, and seeing like everywhere kind of in between, and how every restaurant kind of does things a little bit differently, but. Again, all restaurants that are really just big on hospitality and taking care of the guests that enter the doors. Yeah,
I think it's more important to take care of the guests than it is to like deliver your vision. Right? There's some places where you go and it's all about delivering the vision. It's like, there's something to be said about some of these people that like maybe don't understand some of the dishes or something like that. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, like it's about them. Yeah, you know what I mean. So. I wanted to ask you. I'm realizing now that the clock that I usually take sneaky little peeks at is dead.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier too. I was like,
so I'm like, I have no idea how long we've been talking, but that's okay. So we'll just kind of like fly by the seat of our pants. We may lose one of the cameras at some point. We're still a little bootleg, but if we lose a camera, that's about the hour and 10-minute mark. So that's probably where we'll kind of try to adapt if needed. I want to hear more about Pachi's Pizza. So you were doing deliveries for Pachi's?
I never did deliveries for Pachi's.
You were doing the cashier kind of.
to do deliveries.
Okay, got it.
And the GM, Brad, at the time, for whatever reason, saw something else that I maybe didn't realize and hired me as a counter person, cashier. And I looking back, I know I crushed it.
Yeah,
It was just something like there would be nights where there was 2 people on, and I was like, how can you guys like not handle this? And then like I would be like thrown on by myself on a Friday night.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I was like nail orders. I've also like I don't write down anything. I've
Right.
never written down anything. I just can remember it.
I used to be good at that. I can't do
Unless
that anymore.
So this was always my thing. If you gave me the order and it was like it could be the most complicated order, I could remember it. The minute you asked me, you got that, gone. And so I was just like, just don't ask me to like repeat it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I got it. And so I really noticed that I had a great memory for that stuff, but you know, I didn't want to like be a cashier, and so I ended up actually doing coffee at the same time as well. But I had to get up like at 5 a.m. to be there. And coffee was like actually really cool. I think that's what maybe even got me more into beverage. Just like knowing like the different blends,
fermented,
like,
brewed stuff. You're like, what?
Yeah. And then when I got to Spruce, and all the bartenders were there, we all had like this similar background of we had all been baristas at one point.
That's funny.
And there's my bar manager at the time, Eileen, was like, there's like a very similar line. It's like you're just subbing out coffee for liquor essentially, and it's the exact same thing.
Well, that's funny. You're still weighing out acid and mouthfeel.
Yeah, exactly. You know how to taste something. You know how to put a cocktail together. You can you can remember a lot just off the top of your head. And so and that was always her thing. She's like, the best bartenders are always baristas first.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, and that's how we all really were really good at that time. And Pachi's, it was in Lafayette. It's not. I don't think it's there anymore. I think they closed that location more recently, or maybe a couple years ago. But the big pizza thing that there was like the Matt Cain, because Matt Cain at the time was like the guy, and that's what everybody ordered. But it's like a rival to Zachary's too.
Sure.
Zachary's very much like I think more of a staple in the Bay Area. But it was a good time. Like I said, it introduced me to a lot of people that I think eventually got me to where I'm at now.
I just love when you were originally telling the story, and then we touched on it again, was just kind of like that idea of dropping the check and like thinking about like what is a lot of money, and I think for so many people, I mean, you were mentioning Texas Roadhouse too, like what would a check be at Texas Roadhouse? Like $30 PPA, $40
like
PPA,
170, like,
ooh, yeah.
And like the clientele, and like this is people that I grew up with, and like still a place that I love and very near to me, and I think very nostalgically about. $170, that's a fucking lot
that's
of money.
A huge table.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that's what maybe like it's a small town, like you're like, oh shit, like, and then being at Pachi's and seeing like $250 checks or like $400 checks. I'm like, dude, but people like it's Lafayette, like it was a really great town, and just everybody was like real tight knit and stuff like that. So like that stuff was like never an issue or anything like that.
And then going to Spruce after that and seeing like one person can come in and order like a $multi-thousand bottle of wine, and you're like,
and that's what I realized.
Are you sure you want that? That's what you want?
Yeah, like that. This one right here.
Yeah.
This one. Are
you
sure this one?
The draw the line.
Not the one above it.
Yeah.
And I think I had that moment. I think one of the first moments I had that was Greg Popovich. Actually, he's very big regular at Spruce at that time. He came and sat at the bar, and I grew up in Texas, so I'm like a very big Spurs fan. And he sat down at the end of the bar, and I was at the well bartender that night, and he's just like, "Oh, how's it going?" And I'm like, "I already knew who he was." I'm like, "I'm doing well. How are you?" And he's like, "I'm doing great." He's like, "I'm Pop, by the way." And I'm like, I know who you are, dude. Like, but just very cool. Like one of the nicest people I think I've ever met. And like was like, "Oh, I'll take the caviar, blah blah blah," and then I'll take like a bottle of like 2014 Ravenel, like Pinto or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, this is like, it's Popovich, but at the same time, like that's immediately a $1,500 check.
Yep.
And then being like, okay, like there's levels to this this thing, and you're not like out in South Texas or in like Lafayette anymore. Granted, like that's not like a knock on them. It's just this is you're in the middle of Pac Heights and Laurel Heights in San Francisco, and people don't bet a lot of these things. And so that's I think Spruce was the place that maybe like desensitized me to like the bigger picture. Like, okay, this is where you're at now in your career, and you should get maybe used to this, and then going to Cran like after that too, because Cran's menu is like $500 a person.
Yep.
We would 4 tops, $2,000 before any beverage, and at that point you're just like, okay, like, well, I don't live the same. As these people do, but that's okay. Like I'm here to like take care of you and make sure everything is going well.
There was this. I guess I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but at Quinn's there was this table of 2 that used to come in weekly, and they used to text the kitchen what they wanted to eat, and they would get like a 5-course but they would pay for the full cost of everything anyways. And they didn't do bev, but it was always the same thing. Oh, they're here. And, you know, everybody would go like, okay, and what's the menu? And they wanted chicken nuggets today. And like making, you know, 3 Michelin star chicken nuggets or spaghetti or whatever the fuck they wanted, you know.
Best damn chicken nuggets.
Oh my God. It better be some goddamn good chicken nuggets. That was a game changer for me. I worked at, 8 Tables by George Chen, and at Rudy and Paco's in Galveston, it was like, we had a lot of fine wine, but it was like, what was on every table was Silver Oak Alex. That was like the bottle, and Paco was buying like 10 case drops. And back then, it hit the table at like 100 a bottle. Yeah. It was super affordable back then. And
that's East Texas or Gulf Texas. People buy wine there.
Oh, there's a lot of oil money. Yeah. And so, it was almost always California cab. There was no Burgundy drinkers. There was nothing like that. I remember somebody came in and bought a bottle of Spring Mountain Uriah bottling, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And it was like $350, and I was like, this is the most expensive bottle of wine I've ever sold in my life. Like, this is incredible, and they let me try some, and I was like, wow, and it just like blew my mind. But yeah, and now I've been lucky to work at the places I've worked at and taste the wines I've tasted. Yeah. But it's all about perspective, which I think is really beautiful about our industry. You can enjoy a simple meal and in a simple restaurant, and that's awesome. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You know what I mean?
That's what I really. I was always like my favorite question. People are like, "What Michelin star restaurants do you love in San Francisco?" Yeah. And like, it's like, namely the ones that I've worked at. Yeah. There's a couple that I I really enjoy, but I'm like, I also just like more of a casual. Like, I can go in my hoodie and cap, and nobody will think to be like, "Oh, this guy works at Lazy Bear." I just want to come off very casually.
Flying under the radar.
Not put that pressure. Yeah, exactly, too. Which, like, ironically enough, like, when I lived in Oakland for a very brief moment. This is when I was working at Spruce, and me and the girl I was like seeing at the time would go out to dinner, and there was literally 3 times in a row where we went to different places, and they fucked up our order. And she was like, I think they can tell you work in restaurants. Oh, yeah. By the way that you order.
They sense your weakness. Yeah. Because you're not going to say anything.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, she was like, it's you that are making them, like, mess up the order. And I was like, and I wouldn't say anything. Right. Like, I was just like, I'll eat whatever you put in front of me.
Of course. Like, yeah, I'm the same way.
I get it. Like, we all make mistakes. Everybody has, like, a hard shift or a hard day or a hard week or a hard month or year or whatever. Yeah. And she just thought it was, like, the funniest thing. And I was like, now I feel bad. And she was like, no, it's just funny. And she's like, of course you like, don't say anything. I'm like, well, whatever. Like, the food's great still. It's not what I wanted. Yeah. Maybe that was my second
Sometimes
option.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And I would know it too when they would drop the food. I'm like, oh, they like messed this up. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I was like, that was the end of it. She was always like, that's so funny that whenever we go out, there's like a 50-50 chance that they're going to fuck up the order.
Yeah. I feel that. I understand that. Now Bianca and I, when we both go out, maybe she'll say something or I'll say something, sometimes, but like, for the most part, we go in places now, and we, with the role that I have, we're hitting like, 1 dish at each place or something like that. We're never doing like full meals, not anymore. Yeah. Cause I have like 5 stops to make, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm just like,
what's your favorite?
Do you have a non-alcoholic beverage that I can order? Like, my favorite
restaurant?
It's tough. I would say that like, I would bucket into a few different places, and I would also, with the caveat, say that I've never eaten at Lazy Bear, like I've never eaten at Krenz. I will definitely not even try to say anything in the 2+ star category, right? Except now Kiln, because we had our meal at Kiln before they had a star, and I said this is easily a 2-star restaurant. When they got 1 star. They got 1 star, and I was like, that's fucking bullshit. And then they got a 2nd star, and I was like, oh, I'm okay now.
No, there's a big argument, like, with it when they were open, they were like, oh, they're going to get 2 out.
Oh, my God. They should have got 2 out the gate. The food was some of the best food I've ever eaten.
I've never ate there, but I've had friends that have ate there, and everybody has, like, just glowing things to say about it. So at one point, I will make my way over, but...
Jules, and you'll get to see Vincent.
Yeah, I get to see Vincent. My buddy Joey's going to work there now.
Oh, cool.
In the next couple weeks, I think, and... I've always heard. I met John maybe once. John, but I've always heard great things about his food. And he's like the next wonderful chef.
They're the one restaurant that like I've asked every one of them to be on the podcast, and all of them are like, "Oh, sorry, but it's no, thank you." And they're all so fucking good at their job, but they're all so just like quiet and like humble. You know what I mean? Not that people that come on this podcast aren't quiet or humble.
Fly under the radar. I think it's
exactly.
a better way to do it.
I would say that, for me, it's kind of like an accessibility factor. And because my dad was a plumber and my mom sold like foam in chairs,
Yeah.
like I'm always thinking about like what would they enjoy? What would wow them, And
Yeah.
I also think about for people that come to San Francisco and want to have like the San Francisco dining experience,
Yeah.
I'm usually in the vein of like Bix, Boulevard, Rich Table.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where my brain is usually sitting. And obviously all of them are quite different for their own reasons, but I also worked at Boulevard. Bianca used to work at Bix. So both of those places have a little bit of like a, personal inclination towards them.
Like,
yeah, exactly. So, but
I mean, that's why I still love going to Spruce, but
yeah,
I still know like a quarter of the team there. And
yeah.
It's funny. There's there's always just weird crossover in the industry. Like the chef de cuisine Nick Milano, worked at Cran when I was at Cran, and then he.
And I worked with him at Quince.
Oh, did you? Yeah. So.
And Harrison from Sons and Daughters.
Just a really small world and small industry.
Yeah.
But it's like always nice to go over there and see him, and then Jordan's over there and Jeremiah and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to walk in and they're like, hey, and then I always walk in and the host is like, hey sir. I'm like, you don't have to do that.
I'm gonna sit at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah. It's tough. I don't know why I wouldn't normally say Spruce. Where I haven't been that I feel really shitty about not going is Gyridenko. I really want to go to Gyridenko. I've always wanted to go. It's one of those quintessentials, you know what I mean? But I just don't know why I haven't made time. It's probably because they open at 5:30 and I have a 2.5-year-old. But that could be a contributing factor.
That might be it.
Yeah, I want to touch on something that you were talking about earlier, and it's really kind of this this blender effect that you were going through post pandemic. And by no means is this at all towards the Bacchus Group, but it's kind of this shifting back and forth between different positions at different locations, and that's something that happened to a lot of people during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in a way that was advantageous for your career and advantageous for you as an individual because you were constantly shifting gears and it maybe kind of kept you thinking constantly?
I mean, I think for me...
Or just exhausting?
It was exhausting, but I also realized that I can't stop moving sometimes.
Right.
I can't stand still. And it was something that, at the bar at Spruce, there's no off. You don't turn it off.
Right.
Yeah, at Spruce, when I was there, there was always that in-between time of lunch service would end, dinner service would start, and they would all, the dinner service team would do lineup, and then the captains for lunch would all leave, and so it would throw you on an island by yourself essentially, and that's when you would get hit.
Yep.
And so you had to just figure it out at that point. And so I think it was naturally for me to be like, well, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm not gonna stop at this point. And so I think it was advantageous in terms of management and people being like, damn, Tommy just really does not turn off at one point, because there would be days where I would help at Spruce for lunch and then drive down to Selby's to work us a bar or somm shift and stuff like that. And it was they would get mad at each other. Spruce would get mad at Selby's for not letting me do it, and
sure.
Selby's would be like, well, he works here now and stuff like that. And so it was always
that's
just
so funny.
Yeah. But I think it was advantageous of being man, this guy really works hard, and that's how I wanted to not come across, because I know I can push really hard in terms of my work ethic and my gas tank. But yeah, no, I mean, that's towards the end, I was like, I just can't I would love to stay here and do this, but I think I've maxed my time out.
We mentioned the full tour of duty, and you were on a ton of deployments.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You were just out there.
Jamie will vouch for that. He's like, man, you went from Spruce to Selby's to pub to the bakery, back to pub, and then back to Spruce and stuff like that. And so that during that time too, I was also their driver, because they were moving liquor and wine between the restaurants and stuff like that. So
internal transfers.
I would drive all the deliveries down to Pizza Antica Santana Row, and then drive to Pizza Antica Lafayette and drop stuff off, and then pick up stuff there, and then drive it back to Spruce. And so I was Jamie called me the donkey at one point. And I was whatever, I don't mind.
Yeah.
It kept me out of the restaurant and kind of my eyes active and stuff like that. So
I hear you. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good thing, and wasn't anything that I ever doubted that I could do. But yeah,
I feel like that would be fun. I mean, I feel like I like the sales side of things because I'm not in the same four walls. Because when I'm in the same four walls, I I get real antsy. Like I want to move around, you know.
get stir crazy.
Yeah, I get stir crazy. And so it's one of the things that I've really enjoyed is, you know, when I was at Chambers, I was selling to 133 accounts a year. And I said, it's as if I work at 133 restaurants at once.
Yeah.
In a small way. In many of these restaurants, in a very small way. You know, I
But
send the annual allocation and they take the annual allocation. But in a lot of the places I would go in and I would say, oh, have you tried this? Have you done this? This person's doing this. And just like constantly trying to like help. Or, you know, I picked up shifts at a few places like 8 tables that would need somebody. And I'd go like, oh, yeah, you need a captain for the night? I'll come in. You know, I used to work there. So like the Chinese food aspect wasn't super intimidating, but you know, I would go in and just like pour wine or something like that, you know.
Who that worked there?
Aaron Babcock was there for a while. Carson was there for a while.
Nick Moon? He worked with me at the pub very briefly, but I don't know.
I don't think I know Nick Moon. Maybe I was there I moved in July 2018. I was actually staging and I was living in Southern California, and then they were just like, what are you doing next week? And I was like, nothing. And they were like, great, we're going to schedule you. I said, okay. And then the next week they go, we're going to schedule you again. I was like, I have to go back to Southern California at some point. They were like, are you not moving up here? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, you have a job in Southern California and you have a job in Northern California. Yeah. And I was just like, I mean, I guess I could move up here. And then that's when I talked to Bianca and I was just like, are you okay if I move in for a little while? And she's like, we've been together for like a month. And I was like, yeah, just till I get my own place. And then we lived together forever since then, you know what I mean? So
it works out.
It works out.
It always works out. How
it does work out. Yeah. I want to kind of touch on one thing, and I guess you mostly covered it. The Advanced Somm timeline, you know, you went very quickly into your intro and then into your certified, which I think is what most people recommend. And that's awesome that Keith kind of like pushed you into that, because it's really easy. That's what I did. I got my intro and then I just never did my certified, because I was just like, oh, I'll do it at some point. And then it was like 2 years, and then it was like 3 years, and it was like 5 years if you get a master somm to give you a letter. And then I was just like, and I was just like, I'll get there someday. And it was just never really a priority to me, because I was just always like, I was just working too much, I guess. And so, you know, the Advanced Somm timeline, I mean, this is something that I talked to Jordan about as well. What do you think the preparation for you was on the exam, and how much do you think of that was necessary?
Interesting. The way I've always viewed it, and this is how, like, you know, I'll do it when I'm like ready to do it. Like I know when I set my mind to it, I can make it happen. But when I passed my certified and I went to Spruce, and then, you know, was the goal was always there to pass my advance. You know, I didn't necessarily put like this unfair or unrealistic pressure on myself, even, you know, like the industry that I work in, and just I always figured, I was like, you know what, it'll work itself out when I get to it. When I left Kren, that was me with the intention of like, I'm gonna pass this exam and I'm not gonna like look back, kind of a thing. And so that's why I took the job at Lazy Bear. But I mean, it was, I think for me, like in terms of like recommendation or like advice, like go at your own pace. You know, you don't have to rush yourself. Like if you personally want to do that, then great. But I knew, like, you know, where I was at when I passed my certified to like getting to the advanced and like watching others do it. I'm like, I'm just like not maybe like responsibly there yet to like sit down in the morning after a long service, getting out late, getting home late, and then waking myself up at like 8 or 9 to like, I'm gonna crack a book about New Zealand, and then just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it and read it again until like, you know, that it sticks. And it just I figured, I was like, you know, I'll eventually get there. But it wasn't like didn't put an unfair pressure on me. But once I made that decision to like leave Kren and go to Lazy Bear, that it was like, I cannot take this job and then not do it.
That was the timeline.
Yeah, that was like, I'm gonna do this now. That's at this point. And so I felt great about my tasting and about my service. It was theory that I always felt was always going to be my biggest hump, because it falls on you at that point.
Theory test, Robbie from Robbie Lazal showed me a few of the theory tests that you guys had this year, and they were fucking ridiculous.
Master or advanced?
No, it was advanced. I think he showed me the advanced tests, and it was just like asking about provinces in China and stuff like that. Yeah.
Gixia or whatever. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I can spell it.
Sure.
But
did you get it right? That's the most important part. As long as you got the multiple choice right.
I got it wrong previously, but they phrased it differently. But I made sure, I was like, I'm gonna remember at least a couple of them. Yeah. And like there's like another one's like Chateau Bacchus, which is like I can always remember that.
Yeah.
And just, you know, I couldn't have done it without the support and the team at Lazy Bear, and that's why I knew that going to Lazy Bear and being a part of a team with Jacob and Daniel Pendleton and Toyga and stuff like that, and Jackson and Naomi, they would eventually like support me enough to get there. And like when I finally like got there, I was like, man, I've never felt so like supported and like understood and like helped at any position. And like maybe with the Spruce like bar team, like with that same level of camaraderie.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was like them wanting to, like, they want to see you succeed, and and they will help you till the end. Like, come meet me here at like this, and I'll like taste you, I'll do a line, I'll squeeze it in, I'll make it happen. And even also like with like the Bacchus team, like Justin Chin and Jordan and stuff like that, and Caleb MacArthur, taking time out of their week and their day to like put together like blind for me. And even Justin Chin was probably one of the bigger facets of me like passing that exam. So big shout out to him, because he coached me through a lot. There's one point he's like, "You're tasting too often, I want you to stop."
Wow.
And yeah, so I took off a week, and I maybe did like one MS tasting like level with like Morgan Gray and Jacob Brown and my Morgan Harris and stuff like that. And I got none of them right, but it was a get right. She was like, sure. your grid's really good, your description is really good. And it's just you also have to put yourself in the right environment. If it was a matter of me being honest with myself at Cran, of like, food and like service is much more like the primary focal point of like the day-to-day basis.
Sure.
Beverage comes like second behind, and at Lazy Bear, for me, it was like they were both like they're equally important and stuff like that. And again, I knew like the guys there, Jacob, Daniel, and stuff like that, and I was like, these are guys that I need to learn from and need to realize that I'm not as maybe as good as they are, and learn from them, and humble myself and know that I'm not the best or smartest in the room all the time.
That's part of it. I think that's back to what we were talking about, teamwork. When you look over to your left, you look over to your right, and somebody's pushing harder, and you go, I gotta push harder.
And that's like was like one of the biggest things I realized. Jake, like, can you talk about like Stoltman like 70 that lineup and stuff like that? And like I never got that at like Cran, not to like knock or like poo-poo their beverage program. Sure. It was like being put on the spot, and I'm like, well, why can Daniel and Jacob talk end on end about Peter Stoltman and Tom and like Maryland and stuff like that, and their vineyards and like where they're located and what they're growing and what they're making. And at that time, I couldn't do that. And I was like, I need to be able to keep up with these guys, because I don't want to like ask the question and then be like, well, I don't know. Yeah. It makes you feel like you have to like be on par with them at least. And so I think that was, like, going back to your question, the timeline, I was like, I think everybody just needs to maybe go at their own pace. And I think when you're ready for it, you maybe, at least for me, I realized when I was ready for it, I was like, I'm ready to make this move. I'm ready to make this transition. I've learned a fair amount at Cran. I've learned like the very polished nuances of service, but like, I was like, my beverage
tasted some of the highest level burgundies and stuff, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big burgundy guy. Like I think that's my desert island wine is Chardonnay, namely Chablis. But I had I think picked up all of that I needed to learn at Cran, and it was just time for a change at that point, and was ready to do it. And
that's awesome.
Ready to shoot for the advanced exam and get the proper help to do so.
Yeah. What do you think about? I wanted to ask you, because you were there, and this is a person that is not like, by no means am I on this level at all, but there's that Coki's World of Wine girl, right? So, and she's put in tons of work. Obviously, she passed with merit.
So I met her at the end.
Oh, really? That's so funny. Yeah. I'm curious. Like, I always see that, and this is by no means a knock at her, but it's kind of like, well, if your whole life or your whole focus is dedicated to that one thing, then of course you can grow really quickly, and she's grown incredibly quickly.
Actually, I think she was second in her exams.
She was like one of the top 3 or whatever for scores. I think
she crushed her theory.
Really?
Yeah, I think she got like a 78 or like 76, which is like, I'm gonna be honest, I got a 60. Like, I barely did it.
Hey man, I barely passed. Whatever. That doesn't count. That doesn't matter. Yeah. No,
I mean, like, we all like got our results from the exam. She got announced, and then we all went downstairs, because everybody does like the whole like gathering and drinks things, stuff like that. And then she sat next to the table next to us, and like I think Corey and like all of the San Francisco tasting group that was part, like knew who she was. I'm like, who is that? Like, like, you don't know who Coki is? I'm like, shit, sorry.
That's so funny.
And she was so nice though, so sweet. Like,
she seems
super approachable.
Like, she's Canadian, right?
Canadian, And I was like, let's get champagne and blah blah blah. And she was just like super cool to talk to. And I went back and told Jacob, I was like, I met Coki. He's like, oh yeah, Coki's like great. She's like, we're actually really good friends. I'm like,
that's so funny. That's
like,
awesome.
A lot of times I feel like I'm very much a part of the Sommelier community. I also feel like I'm very detached a lot of the times, and I'm like one of those like floating around somms. That's just like, oh, I'm a somm, but like nobody knows
Oh
who I
yeah,
am,
yeah.
kind of thing. And no, it was cool to meet her. Yeah, very much like, and then like now like we're friends on like Instagram and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, like you're like really like.
Oh my god,
She's
she's so
like, I'm not taking
dedicated.
a break like between. I'm going straight for MS theory.
Fucking nuts.
And
yeah.
I was like, I think I need like maybe like 6 months. Like I don't know, like
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I fully intend to take MS theory at some point. I'd be, I think, regretful and remiss not to. I always told myself if I passed my advanced on my first try.
Oh, hi, sorry. We're right in the middle of filming something. Yeah, thanks. All good.
I was like, if I don't do it, at least.
Sorry, that's never happened. Those are new clips.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'll leave that in. I'm not cutting that out.
Don't cut it out. Yeah. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. You want some wine?
Get in here. Yeah. Just what was that?
You're fully intending to take your MS
Yeah,
theory?
fully intending to take MS theory. I think it would be regretful not to. I always tell myself if I pass my advanced exam, granted, like it took me 2 times for theory, but if I pass like the rest on the first time, I would do it. And I was like, well, like, what else am I doing? Like, you know, this is, I think, a goal that's very achievable, and like, I think people like, you know, in this community, like Morgan Harris and like Justin Chin and stuff like that, they're like really willing to put in that effort to like help you.
It gives you something to work towards too.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, if I look back at my life in 10 years and be like, oh, I passed my advanced exam and I never like went for anything else. That's never like how I've like fully like operated, and I think that goes back to like just the competitiveness of just being like, well, you know, I might as well fucking do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's but I'm just surprised that she's really just shooting into it. Like, but she has, you know, she has a mindset that I think she could probably do it.
Probably, yeah. I see the videos of like her fridge with all the sample
that
bottles and shit, and I'm like, oh my god.
Like I sent it to the Lazy Bear group chat. I'm like, dude, I can't keep up.
You're like, I need a fridge.
Yeah.
Can you guys make me a fridge of blind
like, I don't even have a
tastings?
fridge. Yeah,
That's so funny. I have a funny story to tell you before we get towards the spark and closing statements.
Yeah.
Oh, and the wine reveal too. If you've been to the Little Bear room, what do you call it? The den, the baby den? What is it
Bear
called?
Cave or the Bear Den?
Cave. The one across the street.
The one across the street is Bear Cave.
Bear Cave.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've been to the Bear Cave, and if you've ever stepped on broken glass in the grout, I want to take full responsibility for the broken glass. I'm not sure if you heard that story, but
I did not.
I'm the asshole that broke a bunch of Gabriel Golds on the shelf, and Jacob is, is.
No wonder they're in the closet now. They haven't come out.
Oh, good. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It was like, I don't know how long ago you guys finished it, but it was like relatively new. And it was the Bia Cart
dinner
2012 launch. It was like the late night happy hour with all the industry people that were across the street.
Yeah.
And Molly came and Jeremiah came and Mark Wright came. It's like a year and a half maybe.
Okay, yeah.
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 And
you were there?
I was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I was working for Chambers.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And
I
so
remember it was an industry night.
Yeah, it was industry night. Yeah. So I ended up I was there a little early. They were getting things set up, and I was talking to Jacob, and I like put my arm on the shelf, and the shelf just like flipped. And
because there wasn't
broke like 8 or 9 Gabriel Golds, and I was just like, oh my fucking god! I just looked at Jacob, and, we were struggling a little bit financially at the time, and I was like, I can't pay for these, and I was like, I'll work for free. That's like the first thing I told him, and he was like, it's fine, it happens. I was like, no, that's a lot of money. I know how much Gabriel Golds cost. Mm-hmm. Like, this is criminal. Like. But he was so sweet and kind, and every time I see him, I bring it up, and he's like, "Stop talking about it. It's fine. It didn't happen." But
that's textbook Jacob.
I know.
Don't
he's
worry about
just
it.
the sweetest ever. Okay, Spark. What is the Spark? I mean, I know that we kind of talked about, Pachi's and Brad kind of pushing you towards this front of house position, and we talked about Metro and Keith kind of like pushing you into the wine scene.
Yeah.
Aside from Texas Roadhouse, like, where do you think kind of the spark was that you said, I want to be in the hospitality industry, or the spark that said, I want to do wine? Was there a moment, I guess?
I think it was at Metro, and it was just, it was somebody like Keith, like realizing that like you're better than you think you are. Mm-hmm. Like, granted, I wasn't like where I'm at now.
Sure.
But it was like somebody realizing that, like, believing in you that, like, you can do this. And for me, like, I remember when I first heard what a sommelier was, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And my buddy's like, yeah, they study wine. And I'm like, or they like work with wine. This is my buddy Grant. And I was like, that's a job? And he's like, yeah, it's like that's what Jamie, and that's what Jamie is. I was like, oh, I didn't like realize that. I'm like, well, that's like really cool. And he's like, and then he was like, oh, you should check out that Somm documentary. And like I had never seen it and never heard of it. He's like, yeah, it's on Netflix or whatever. And Netflix was like still getting going at the time, I think, and it was on there. And watching it, and I was like, oh, that's actually like really cool. I didn't realize that people did that for a living. And it was also just like, I think I like to take care of people at the end of the day. It's like an inherent part of me. I like to like, make sure everybody's having a good time. And it's, I think at Metro is like when it really drove the spark home of like, I can make a living like out of this, and it could be great. And I can impact somebody's like special night or make it memorable, and like they can take that home and they can take that forever with them. Spruce also, like, I had those kind of moments a couple of times, but I think Metro was like a really big driver of like, and then Jack, the owner at the time, was like very like old school, like sommelier from like back in the day, that like had a very unique perspective on service. And, the customer always being right or not always being right kind of thing. Yeah. Just knowing that somebody like I worked for like that would, go to bat for you in moments where it's just like, well, typically most restaurants would be like, you fucked up, you're wrong, you shouldn't have done that. And being like, no, you're like telling
fuck
them,
them.
They can get out of here, kind of a thing. And so it was just like, oh man, there's so many like, and just also like there's just so many great people that I worked with there. And it's so funny that's like, now I'll run into them occasionally. Like, I was like on a hike the other day and I walked by somebody. I was like, man, that looks like Kenny. And I used to work with Kenny as a server. He was a server at Metro at the time, and we both looked at each other, and it was like by Golden Gate, and he's like, Tommy? I was like, Kenny? He's like, shit, dude, I haven't seen you like since like Metro and stuff like that. And now he's like a lawyer and stuff like that.
Wow.
And it happened the other day too. I was at Lazy Bear and I was coming down the stairs with like a tray, and I looked at him, I was like, man, that guy looks like Ross. And I'm like, that is Ross. And then being like, Ross, what are you doing? And he's like, hey, shit, I didn't know you worked here. And, and just like, just you meet so many great and wonderful individuals. And I think for me, it's also like, granted, like I've never really traveled, but it's also like been a way like to study and like, travel and like learn different cultures and kind of like, food and stuff like that. And, growing up in Texas, like, you don't get a grand exposure to a lot of like different cuisines and cultures and food. And,
probably not in far.
Yeah. Like, people always like, oh, like, how'd you like end up as a sommelier like in San Francisco when you grew up in the Rio Grande Valley? I was like, give them the whole like, the story that I just gave you about like my parents and my mom moving us out here. But then like, I go back and like my friends that I still have there, who grew up there, who have remained there for the most part, still like crack a Bud Light and Jack Daniels. And then I'm like, that's okay. I'm like, there's a time and place for that. And I when I go down there, I'm happy to enjoy many of them with them.
Yeah.
And Metro. I think Metro was the spark for me, and just realizing that like, I've grown so much and come out of my shell, and I can grow and grow and grow, and just keep. Who knows where it's gonna end up, kind of a thing. So.
Well, I think too, like meeting like you being able to go back and have Coors Light and have Jack Daniels, Bud Light, and have Jack Daniels is to like meeting people where they're at. And I think that's one of the things in hospitality that's sometimes like lost. It's like meeting people where they're at, and that's, I think, something again that the Bacchus Group does well, and everything that I know about Jacob and Lazy Bear does really well. It's not always about like leading you down this like grand thing that you're supposed to understand. Like you go to the ballet and you're like, I don't get it. That's like, no problem. Like,
Tell me what you want.
Yeah.
You want a Jameson?
Did you have a good time?
Again, it's like, I'm happy to go grab that.
Yeah.
It's all about making people feel comfortable, and like when they're there at your restaurant or your place of business, like making them feel like they're at home. And I think that's what drives this, like the point home for me is like, I want people to feel comfortable when they come in and be like, when they leave, be like, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
I want to stay and I want to come back and stuff like that. And so that's one thing I noticed at Lazy Bear when I started is my first week we were doing like lineups and reservations and stuff like that. And there's notes on the side of like the reservation sheet, and like this is their 30th visit and this is their 25th visit and this is their 40th visit and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, that's like, this place is doing something right in terms of like hospitality and like making people like want to come back that many times, And so I think that's really cool and something that I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, that's great. Well, while I don't have the budget that some of the places that you've worked at,
are you going to keep me?
Well, say I'm not going to be able to keep you either. What do you think about the wine? Do you enjoy the wine?
Love it.
Good.
Yeah, it's
not a blind. Yeah,
it's not a blind, but I think it's like maybe an equal parts blend, like Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay. I don't think it's Blanc de Blanc, but it's delicious.
Yeah,
and that's what's important. It's fucking delicious. So.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
I think you're the first bottle of champagne I've opened on the podcast, actually.
Oh, thank you.
This is a Côte d'Ivoire producer that I represent now, Denis Chaput. They're in an old Templar. Their house is in an old Templar structure where they live. It's two brothers. They've been making wine since they haven't been making wine, but family's been there since the 900s. Côte d'Ivoire obviously famous for Pinot Noir mostly. So it's Pinot Noir Chardonnay blend, and it's a good wine. I like this wine a lot. They make like 3,000 cases a year or something.
Okay.
Yeah, tiny, but just good stuff, and something I had, and I was like, I want to celebrate. Let's celebrate.
Yeah,
bubbles.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I've been going out and people been greeting me with bubbles. And I'm like, you know what? This never gets old. Like, I was like,
and this is where I slip you the 20 and you say this is the best bubbles that you've had so far. No, I'm just kidding.
It's the best.
Cool. Okay. The last thing that we really have to talk about is just kind of like, closing thoughts. Like, closing thoughts, any statements that you want to make to the world, to the listeners, or any advice you'd want to offer anybody that's listening to the podcast right now.
Any advice, for people in the industry, because, looking back on it, I've done this 10 plus years now, which is still a small amount of time because I didn't get started till late. But I've met so many talented individuals that, are on the fence about staying in or staying on or getting out and doing something else. And it's if that's where your real passion lies, follow it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it'll steer you in the wrong direction. Maybe you should do it for a few more years, and you'll either learn that you really want to do it or you don't. Mm-hmm. But if you're on the fence or you're teetering about leaving and getting out, but you really enjoy it at that time, just keep doing it. And I think that's my biggest piece of advice, because I've seen just people that have left that are so talented. I'm like, man, you could have so much more promise than me. They're so inherently smarter than I am, and gifted and just charming. And I'm like, no, you just
could have done anything.
Just stick it out. Just stick it out. Yeah. If that's again, it's there's, I think this a weird thing too. There's this old documentary that I watched, and this is before I was bartending, and it was I don't know if you've probably seen it, with the members only bartending. They're it's on YouTube, and I forgot what it was called, but it's this old and he's the hospitality industry, and you don't find it kind of finds you. And I feel if you find yourself in it and you really enjoy it, then I think you should stick with it. That's maybe just me, but I also think people that know it immediately, that's not gonna be the right fit for them. Mm-hmm. No, but even then I had those moments immediately early on. I was I don't want to fucking work. I
don't like talking to people
fucking again.
God
forbid I have to bust a goddamn table. And then going back to it and finding there's the right spot where it's okay, this is again, there's pot cheese and stuff like that, and
right.
That just gave me the base of doing it, and also just being very blessed to have a manager at that time see the potential in me that I maybe didn't see, and recommend me for a front of house position that I would never thought that I would be successful or good at. But yeah, just keep going and stick it out, and then also the biggest piece of advice, and this goes back to the old bar team at Spruce, is don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck. It's the best advice I can offer.
Don't fuck it up. And I actually still carry that with me to this day. It's don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Granted, we're all gonna fuck it up at some point.
Well, you can fuck up, but does that mean that you fucked it up?
No.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
You could fix it.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever completely fucked up.
Yeah.
And there's always, as long as you're open and willing to try, you can always fix or amend something.
By the way, this is PG-13 podcast. Yeah, that's awesome.
You shouldn't have me on it then.
No, it wouldn't be an industry podcast. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's lucky that wine is the only thing that we're consuming. I mean, that's the industry that I grew up in. So.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks.
Cheers. Thank you.
Congrats again.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Also, thank you for the delicious champagne.
Yeah, of course.